Show the knife. Show the knife. Show the knife. Show the knife. That's it. Show the knife. That's it.
Touch my little sister. She has 12. She has 12 and you just sponsored me.
But rest assured, Scotland, the girl has been arrested. Like most viral videos, we're only seeing a brief glimpse into an incident that was likely much longer. But I'm not certain how much context you need on a grown man antagonizing kids yelling, "Stay away from us," as the UK has had several reports of girls being horrendously attacked by specific men, and it is a crime for them to even carry pepper spray to protect themselves, so it makes sense why people are siding with the kids. But sure, there is a possibility these kids were on a crime spree. It just doesn't explain why this particular adult was interacting with them in the first place. And given how much social media outrage is occurring over the incident, you'd be certain the corporate media would explain why the girl, and only the girl, needed to be arrested. But no. Days later, local outlets are only saying the female youth was arrested over the bladed weapon, and she will be reported to the relevant authorities. Absolutely nothing on the guy recording, nothing as to why she had the weapons in the first place, which lets you know they're omitting all the inconvenient information as to why little kids in the UK feel the need to carry axes in the street, as Twitter users are hailing her as a hero, with plenty of AI imagery showing her protecting Scotland, and even comparing her to Saint Joan of Arc, highlighting how the question isn't why is she carrying an axe, but why is a grown adult with that accent approaching her. You'd think these are all concerns the mainstream media would want to address, especially considering this story is basically my entire social media feed. But sometimes their silence is all the confirmation we'll get. But what's insane is far-left Reddit's replies to Twitter's reaction, saying it's good she was arrested since there was another knife attack nearby months earlier, remarking the girls having weapons is going to make the immigrants get weapons to protect themselves from them, and then somebody saying they faced a similar situation, not from the perspective of the kids, but the guy recording, to which every single reply calling him out for being in that situation got massively downvoted. There's a serious situation that needs to be addressed on Reddit, but that's for a different video. It's just insane to think that when a video like this goes viral, Twitter and Instagram's perspective defaults to the kids, and how can we keep the girls safe? Then Reddit defaults to, what about the guy recording? That could have been any Redditor. How can we make everybody more defenseless? But after I saw that Reddit thread of the concerned parent finding out their kid is smoking pot, and Reddit collectively tried to cover for the kid, then shaming the parent for being concerned about it, made me completely lose faith in the collective hive mind of that platform, as there is a valid concern about viral videos being falsely framed, where this other clip from the UK shows what their police are preoccupied with.
That put a spring in my step?
Most people would find it harmless, but it was later reported that she was arguing with the McDonald's staff and police, scratching and kicking them, as just because they're kids doesn't mean they're not capable of crime. And just because we identify better with one group, whether it be law enforcement, students, or migrants, doesn't mean we should default to one side, as I don't even really believe that Twitter community know either. But what we're seeing in Scotland or the UK as a whole makes me believe the absence of information on these Twitter is correct. As look at Scotland in 2019. 2 years later, the same side is protesting deportations. This year, when Trump arrives in Scotland, we see mass immigration protests, just like in the US.
Hundreds of refugees staying here over the years, and people are really upset at the fact that some of them
globally, all these Western countries are experiencing the same exact issues simultaneously. It's almost as if there had to be a global agenda for this to take place. And whatever crime, say a
I am ready to put on a show.
and federal law enforcement, it conveniently gets omitted from the mainstream media as it forms a liberal agenda, as they can villainize conservatives or police all they want. But once they start saying that kids are bad because they feel unsafe, that's what sparks a revolution. You appreciate my concise, light order commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality.
You belong to me. You're welcome. An enchanted object. Interesting.
Pulse charge! Fire!
Or something like that, or a gun is definitely a weapon. I support this guy. I think he's great, and I'm really glad to see more people talking about this. And things are obviously, you know, things are pretty much getting more and more extreme over time. And I think that political revolution coming to Britain. Oh boy!
Hey team, enjoy
Is this a this is a big one? Wow.
Did you drop
What?
Special
On September 13th,
You know what to do,
I will ask something of the British public. British patriots that I would never ask anything of if you're willing to lead the charge. If certain individuals can ask for our throats to be slit with zero accountability or repercussions, that defend ourselves in a manner that may rattle foreign hostiles and our government to their very core. Choose a side because this is ultimately what it's come down to. On the 13th, and prepare your shields.
I'm holding.
Some unadvised jest.
Oh boy. Wow. Should have been September 11th? No.
I am
Absolutely not.
I am ready to put on a
So
show.
yeah, there it is. And yeah, holy fuck. And let's go, I'll look at this later on, but yeah, bro's treating yeah, I guess so, right? Enough is enough. So walk
Heads up, we got enough.
I mean, I don't know exactly where this is going to go, but yeah, I mean, there's a good chance you could get a revolution happening. I mean, you can't just turn on the I mean, I think that, again, how I know this is because the U.S. has been the same, it's been the same victim of the same problems. That's it. I think Trump getting elected was actually a huge turning point. I think it was, and the reason why is that I think it showed a lot of people the viewpoints and the values that these different people have are actually very strong now. They are extremely popular, and they're held by a large percentage of people. As soon as people realize that, the power of consensus is so strong that it brings a lot of, I think, kind of middle-of-the-road people over to your side.
Hey everybody,
I want to watch this about Disney Plus.
how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Today we're going to be discussing what you probably already know if you've been watching this channel for a while, which is why using streaming services went from being a really smart way to avoid the aggravation of having to go through 20 different NZB sites and torrent sites and Emule to try and find what you were looking for, to a completely nonsensical way to consume media. Whether you're talking about streaming sites that restrict you from getting high-resolution content unless you use a piece of hardware that is fundamentally spyware, or you're dealing with a streaming company that says if you pay us more money, you'll avoid the ads, and then gives you the ads. Just so you know, BlackBerry, some of our viewers do have a subwoofer, so when you do that, you're really, really fucking with them.
They're so stupid.
BlackBerry?
Damn, bro, he just doing whatever he wants.
You have so many toys. You have 7 scratching posts, 3 cat trees, all
Cat's
these little
just
things on
ruining
the
the
floor,
whole fucking
and you
video.
have to fuck with the microphone. Every fucking video.
Because he's talking to the microphone and giving it attention. That's the reason why. Needs the alinity treatment.
Every fucking video.
Well, I remember whenever that cat bit her arm. That is one of my favorite clips of all time.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
I am the
beyond my pitiful creator. I am beyond.
No, I think it's a big
everyone.
problem. Like, streaming services, they've kind of like, you know how like Spotify? Spotify is what Netflix should have been. If Netflix is Saruman, Spotify is Gandalf. This is the way Netflix should have fucking turned into. This is what it should have been, yes, as it was meant to be. Because Spotify has fucking everything. Imagine if you had to go to like Tidal, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and like, you know, like let's say Apple Music has Taylor Swift, Amazon Music has Rolling Stones.
Where there is
You
evil
can't
in
listen
this
to The
universe,
Weeknd unless
I
you
will
go on
be there to
Spotify,
balance.
and then on Tidal there's like the new Kanye album, right? Oh my God!
You know, you should invest in
How
a way to
annoying
hide
would
it.
that be?
Like maybe black clothes.
The moon is white, Stark. It shines in the night. So do I.
That's what I think.
The battle
Hey
starts
everybody,
in
how's it going?
5,
Hope you're having a lovely day.
4,
Welcome to today's episode of
3,
How You Getting After. Your
2,
host, Lewis Rossman.
1.
And today we're going to discuss one of the many reasons that using streaming services is
This
consuming
shield will
media
serve
is
me
not a great
well.
way to consume your media and but back in the day, it was a really nice idea. You pay $20 or $30 a month, and you wind up getting an actual viewing experience where you're able to find all different types of movies. You no longer have to deal with NZB, you no longer have to deal with annoyance.
And porn sites are inconvenient. Spotify is more convenient to me than pirating music. And the price that I pay for that is worth it.
IRC can see or whatever the hell else in order to get your media. You can actually just pay for it. Like one person, you could have everything right there, you don't have to fuck with anything, you don't have to worry about, oh, this version I downloaded is corrupted, I don't have enough cartoon files for this, hey, not enough seeders, but at the end of this, it's great. Until you have all these services, or subscription streaming services, in order to get the media that you want. A lot of streaming services will pull certain things that you may subscribe to for. You have streaming services that will not allow you to get a high-resolution version of your content unless you watch it on a device that's kind of spyware. And now you have Disney and other streaming providers as well doing this thing where when you pay for an ad-free subscription plan, you pay extra for the ad-free subscription plan. As we continue to increase the breadth and depth of the content we
Born again! The cosmos heals.
We can help you achieve your
make
goals.
available. Circumstances may require that certain titles and types of content include ads, even in our no ads or ad-free subscription tiers.
Like this.
Born again! The cosmos heals you.
Oh, that's right. Get it? When you say no ads,
Sparkly.
and then there's ads, I think somebody here is fucking lying.
Keep going.
I'm just saying. This is insane. I would unsub immediately. I think that these companies do this in shitification because the government lets them. You know what I think people should be able to do? I think they should be able to get their money back. If you paid for the
There's
ad-free
still
service,
so much to do.
you should immediately get your fucking money back proactively if they've changed it. Because now they have changed the nature of the deal inside of the contract, and they have removed it back to the main advertising feature retroactively. Well, what I think is that if you paid for, let's say, a 6-month plan, and you're 3 months into the plan, I think you should get 3 months back.
There's still
for the
so
money.
much to do.
Like, you should be able to cancel your shit and
Get
get
that
your money
vehicle
back
moving
from this
again.
class action lawsuit win. Yeah. And it's just crazy that, yeah, it's a 1-year standard. But I think you should get money back. We've already watched it before. But they're double dipping. They are. Yes, they're yeah, Disney, no, like, what is this? Disney thinks they have the IP rights to Darth Vader's negotiation tactics. I've altered the deal. Pray that I don't alter it any further. This is time.
And then we read the review. Service tiers with or without ads. We offer different Disney Plus and Hulu service tiers, some with advertisements and some without. Ones you subscribe with no ads or ad-free are generally free of commercial interruptions, with certain exceptions that may change from time to time, including where 1. Streaming rights and limitations require certain content to go back, or 2. As they're served in full, either in content for social events or media of their own. Additionally,
right? If like you watch the second live, this is real that the field. I think that's something everybody can expect.
no ads or ad-free service tiers may contain limited promotional content, exclusive clips, bundles, including message promoting an upgrade there too. And other content available on these services, such as bundles, events, integrations, sponsorship, messaging. Streaming rights and other limitations require certain content with ads. And this is actually, something I'm sure some people expect, but it's actually really nerds and problem with New York commercial real estate. There's something I was talking about for a long time in the town, where I walk down the street and every single shop with retail space available. Many of these places are still for lease today, and some of them have been for lease for anywhere from 5 to 10 years. You'll have a space that's about 2 to 3,000 square feet, going for much more than any today is that a very good thing. I think they know what the price is. And the reality, as this expert had put it on Reddit, I can't believe him saying those words in the same sentence, but the reality is very smart gentleman put it, and I confirm this with many other people who work in the industry, is that when you have a commercial mortgage-backed security, there are many different investors that may own this building. Institutional investors, individual investors, people who may not even know that they own shares in a particular building because of how that investment, how that financial security or instrument, what you want to call it. When I think of instrument, I think of Godowski and the little violin at the beginning of volume 12, not a financial product, but you get the idea. But you have people that own this building that may not even know. So if you want to change the asking rent, by changing the asking rent, you're adjusting the valuation of the building. And to do that, you may be marking up or marking down somebody's investment. To do that, you have to get buy-in from many different groups. And it's very difficult to get buy-in from all these different groups.
This is a good point that he's making.
One building, one store, have its rent already. So you wind up with to you, it may seem ridiculous that I can do 1-hour videos in one of the most densely populated cities in the world, going over all the empty vacant storefronts. But it's actually more sensible that they stay vacant than it is to contact hundreds or maybe thousands of people to get them all to come to a consensus on their investment being marked down so that this commercial real estate space can get rented to a flower shop or something. And this seems like a similar issue that you're having in streaming digital media. I completely understand that when you are trying to get every single piece of content on earth covered on one service for $10 to $20 a month, you have to wrangle together a lot of different companies. Many of these media companies have been purchased by media companies.
Unless the more you call it a
they own the rights to this, and this person owns the rights to that, and there's so much agreement that you have to come to in order to actually get a working streaming service. And I understand that that's very, very difficult. I feel for you. At the same time, this doesn't mean jack shit to me as a...
Why would I... Exactly. Why would I give a fuck about your problem? Your... Excuse me. I love to breathe liquids sometimes.
The battle starts in
I
5,
love doing that.
4, 3,
I do about
2,
once a
1.
Fuck.
I am no
All you need to do
There
is
is
capture
no
the mission area.
benefit to me
Got
as
it?
the customer, and I can understand some business realities, but when your business reality creates a subpar product, don't expect people to buy it and just say, hey, it sucks, but that's the way it is. That's not just the way it is. Why would somebody want to sign up for it? It's just the way it is.
I know that everything involved with getting that space to be a reasonable rent doesn't mean jack shit to the guy that wants to run a flower shop who does not have $75,000 a month to spend on the space. The content that is included.
Exactly. Yes, this is again, the customer always needs to be put first. A business must adapt to the market of customers. The customer should not have to adapt to a business that shifts its platform and changes the nature of the deals that the customer has already agreed to.
I feel better already. And the service has advertisements. You can go. That's what we call freedom. My older before they went on to do other things. And some of them I still have. Nero was one of the best. He was from Kazakhstan. It was just with so much sass in it. It was like, sounds like a personal thing. And that's what this is to me. Sounds like a personal fucking topic.
I understand streamers do too. Streamers always like to make excuses for why their content sucks dick. Why would anybody give a fuck about why your content sucks dick? Just stop sucking dick. Just stop doing it.
Come get that vehicle to its destination.
Standards are limitations and shooting right, trying to wrangle some stuff together. But it sounds like a personal problem between all of you. I don't want to deal with no matter the cost. It's not my business. I paid for an ad-free service, and when people pay for an ad-free service, they expect to know I work here as but you're one of the people that uses YouTube frequent. You pay when you $10 or $15 and you still see ads fucking videos with the amount of money they get from the ad revenue. And you can't ask you for the money, so they can't making more. You pay for a fucking ad-free experience. Oh my, plus an ads after. I think if you consider more users that have a company.
Born again!
I can see where he's coming from. I can also see if there's an argument to it. It's kind of beside the point. I don't really want to get into it. But yeah, I think ultimately streaming services that do it especially are extreme.
Really better in the net profit than your average YouTuber.
It's almost like it's not the point.
There's a video that I did that got quite a bit of pushback. Louis where apparently I'm supposed to make myself aware of the half a dozen different restrictions on being able to stream 4K video that are not mentioned once in fucking video. But if I pirate it, I get full resolution for free.
That's right.
I have never...
I think that there is not really a moral
some aid.
or a moral wrongdoing committed. Let's say, like you own a DVD and then you pirate the version of it.
Together.
I don't think there's been a moral crime committed. It's like emulation. Yeah, it's just not really. Like, I think that if you're like if you're
There's
getting
still
access
so much
to
to
media that you haven't paid for, or not through the proper service to go through, like for example YouTube or whatever, then I think you could say that's unethical, definitely, because like if everybody did that, it would cause the material to cease to function. But at the same time, yes, you signed up to watch the show. Now they're not letting you watch the show. But you signed up and they said you could, and you pilot the show. Is there really a more evil that's committed there? I think that if you want to be like very granular, you could make some arguments that I would have to agree with. But I think that in a general sense and in a just kind of common sense perspective,
Everybody needs a hand sometime.
what about the law? You always have to follow the law, but that doesn't mean you have to respect the law or agree with it. Those are two very different things.
Quantum magic.
That's it! Don't let anything stand in
27
your way.
years of being on the internet, some advertisement, and some things that are down there.
Together.
I feel better already. One that I think the mention left in like a 2 or 3 second clip of commercial, and then I was getting proppers on CPU. You don't ever.
This is your big chance!
You have a deal. This is their personal problem.
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
We are undefeatable!
The Twitch did this with Twitch Prime. And you know what Twitch is? Sorry, I gave myself away. I said Twitch eaters. What did Twitch viewers do? They became dick eaters. That's what they did.
Born
they ate
again!
that dick and they said, I want more. And now
I require something in my life. The cosmos heals you. Thank you.
same thing.
I went over this in hierarchy of piracy.
Us against the world!
Manually. By the way, I realized that I accidentally changed the game from vector 1.2 back to vector, which is why the table of contents is gone. But look, we have a table of contents. See? We have a table of contents.
2004, trying to understand the difference between a router and a modem, so we could plan and play Halo 2 on Xbox Live.
The contents, isn't it beautiful? This is Rossman's hierarchy of piracy over here. Gives you greater physical media and placement available. Placement available. Lost digital purchase. The purchase that was purchased digital media, but you paid for a streaming service, advertising certain content. Lockout, DRM workarounds, and this is going to be somewhere in the realm of bait and switch streaming, because it's paid for an ad-free
It's not somewhere around. If you're paying for an ad-free experience, so there's an element of nuance to this that I think should be discussed. Is that when you buy like a show, there are parts of that show that could be sponsored. And the world make the argument that paying for the show entitles you for the entire show, including the advertising. I think that the thing that people have a problem with is not that there are native ads inside of the content that they're watching, the same way that, you know, the Super Bowl might have an ad, or like, I think baseball is the best example, right? Where there's like, you know, the guys are like batting and behind them there's like an ad for Toyota or something like that, right? We're not asking for Disney to block that out, right? That's clearly not what people are discussing. When Disney is going in and putting in ads on top of that is the problem. That's the actual issue. It's product placement after the fact of the original recording. So like, for example, that's why even with sponsor block, okay, well, if you want to do that, that's fine. That's part of the video. But Disney putting extra stuff on top of that is way, way different, in my opinion. I think that's a totally different universe.
And they put ads into it anyway. This is different than I refuse to pay for shit, even though I have the money for it.
Yeah.
These are very different things. I don't like that in many scenarios the same word gets used to describe people that are totally reasonable and people that would never pay for anything
Pick your
or
hero
support an artist
or
ever just
villain.
because they want.
I'm not judging.
Labubus. I will bring peace to this universe, no matter the cost.
Can't escape them. No, leave me alone. Please just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Oh, what a terrible nightmare. It feels like I can't escape those things. Oh, look at that. They just dropped a teaser for the new South Park episode. Thank God. Something to finally take my mind off these weird dolls.
I will leave this universe a better place than it was before I was created.
Leave me alone. Please just leave me alone. Leave me alone. So the new episode of South Park just came out, and honestly, when I saw the teaser, I could not contain my excitement. We were going to get a whole episode all about
is growing more dire
the
with
hit
every
new collectible that women all across the nation are dying to get their hands on. But of course, I'm not like all the other guys. I love Labubus. I keep them all over my bag I bring to my local matcha shop where I study feminist literature and listen to Claro. I'm also 6'3", by the way. I mean, you know me. Pilates, sipping Labubu Dubai chocolate matcha latte with AirPods in, bumping the Milk Boys Netanyahu podcast.
Taking over McDonald's? All you need to do is capture the mission area.
Where am I? What happened? Dude, you had another performative.
A shame that these beings have not yet evolved beyond
really
such
again?
petty squabbles.
Damn, I really need to get off TikTok. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I wrote this script at like 3:30 in the morning, and it all made a lot more sense when I was writing it. I have no clue what any of this is. Let's get back to talking about this. In all seriousness, it was a pretty solid episode. They went after all sorts of things: tariffs, Christianity, satanic rituals, Labubus, Fox News, the president, and of course, Satan and It was definitely a bold choice, but I respect it. Overall, this episode had plenty of funny moments and scathing commentary, and I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's the best of the season, but it's definitely a step up from the previous episode in my opinion. So now, let's get to talking about Jesus being a school counselor, Satan being pregnant, and of course, the Labubu addiction nation. Speaking of bad habits, I personally have quite a few of them, and I have a tendency to mindlessly start reaching for them whenever I'm stressed and bored, but that's not a problem for me anymore thanks to today's sponsor, Fume. Fume offers a simple and enjoyable way to break away from bad habits while still having something satisfying to reach
teaspoon. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that delivers great taste without any harmful chemicals. Instead of inhaling vapor, you simply breathe in natural, non-toxic flavors that satisfy the craving without the downside. Fume's premium wooden design is built for both flavor and function. It's the perfect way to keep your hands busy. This is real I personally love the magnetic fidget features. They add an extra layer of satisfaction and they make it perfect for release stress. With a high-quality build and sleek aesthetic, Fume feels premium in your hand and it's easy to take anywhere, whether you're at work, traveling, or just relaxing at home. My personal favorite flavor is sparkling grapefruit, but Fume offers tons of different flavors, so there's something for everyone. Over 500,000 people have already made the switch to Fume as part of their journey, and if you're ready to try it for yourself, buy it time. For a limited time, if you order the Journey Pack using the code Blooms, you'll get a free Fume card, an awesome accessory to level up your experience. So go ahead and click the link tryfume.com/blooms or scan the QR code on the screen to get yours today. Again, that is tryfume.com/blooms, and thank you to Fume for sponsoring this video. The episode opens with
I'm ready to put on a show!
Cartman quickly gets notice and lets everyone know it's about to go down. When one of the girls accuses the other of potentially having things escalate very quickly in this notebook. This is fun fact, real power! Betsy is actually voiced by Betty. I have to imagine that your dad asking you to say this kind of stuff is the most fun Problem solved! So the girls get sent to the counselor, who is Jesus, after Mr. Matthew went to work for ICE. He's pretty confused by all of this, and he asks the same question that I'm sure much of my older audience is asking right now.
What is a Labubu?
So if you don't know, Labubus are these little monster doll things from Hong Kong which have absolutely exploded in popularity in recent times. Their whole gimmick is that you buy a box and you don't know what kind you're going to get until you open it, with some Labubus being much rarer than others. The rarest, most coveted ones have sold for upwards of tens of thousands of dollars. Essentially, they're just collectible accessories that you can buy gambling and flex on your friends. Now this is the part where the cynical side of me wants to talk about how this is so dumb and I just don't understand it, but given my past addiction to opening Counter-Strike cases, I'm not gonna lie, I totally understand it. So Jesus decides the best way to prevent any more fights is to just confiscate the dolls. Meanwhile, Butters is on the playground with Scott Malcolm and Jackie when Red comes up and asks him nervously if he wants to come to her birthday party. He's absolutely shocked that she would ask him to come, and he agrees to come, and then she sends him her birthday ring, which is less of a risk. So of course to us it's immediately clear that Fred is trying to manipulate Butters into buying her little boo-boo by making him think that she's interested in him romantically, which reminded me a lot of the Raisins episode from back in season 7. But of course Butters is just as clueless as usual.
I think on Saturday I'm going to find out if red-haired girls have a red butt.
Now what I found very funny about this line in particular is that it reestablishes a character trait in Butters that we haven't seen since season 14, and that's that he is canonically obsessed with bushes.
The time open your eyes. Reality.
Do they all got a head like that?
I don't know if they just wanted to make this joke, and the fact that it was Butters was just a coincidence, but I like to think it was intentional, and I really appreciated it. So Butters goes to visit the Asian pop-up shop, which is just City Walk converted into an Asian pop-up shop, and when Butters mentions this, Luke Kim explains what has changed.
Didn't you hear the news? Rocky
I thought this was a funny callback to one of the major through lines of the season, that Cloak is officially dead, which is what Cartman was complaining about back in the first episode. So Butters tries to buy the specific Labubu that Red wants, but Luke Kim explains the whole mystery box thing that I explained a second ago. So Butters is forced to buy a mystery box, which is significantly more expensive because of the tariffs in place, which Luke Kim explains the economics of to Butters.
All you need to do is capture the mission area.
You think I pay tariffs? No. You pay tariffs.
Using Labubus to comment on how tariffs push the expenses to the customer rather than the company was a pretty clever way to make the point, but what I really liked about the scene was all the callbacks to for example, Luke Kim selling various Choco bonds. Honestly, the whole Labubu plot of this episode reminded me a lot of the original Pokemon episode. And of course, the fact that we got to see Wing again, which I totally didn't expect. If you don't know, Wing was established the character is actually a parody of a real woman, and her appearance in the episode has an insane backstory, which is pretty much explained in the video, so I recommend you go check out my Every South Park Elaine video. This is real! Yeah, it was super cool to see her again. I'm pretty sure it was her first speaking role since that episode back in season 9. We then cut to a Fox News alert, whose reporters are busy asking about drama about only the most
Meanwhile, Jesus is in a meeting at school with the rest of the staff, expressing his concern over the amount of lights that are broken out because of Labubus. The rest of the teachers show him a Labubu unboxing TikTok, which quickly takes a very dark turn.
I require some aid. The cosmos heals you.
They were a fool to underestimate you.
Honestly, this is probably my favorite scene from the whole episode. Making the rare Labubus be used in demonic rituals is a hilarious way to make fun of the cult-like following these things have developed. And also, it's actually become a pretty popular conspiracy that Labubus are actually demonic, being based on the Mesopotamian demon Pazuzu, known for bringing chaos to the world. Now, the creator says that Labubus are actually inspired by Nordic fairy tales and mythology, and that there's nothing demonic about them. Of course, that's exactly what Satan is. But because Christian conservative voters like to call every new trend demonic, all of their information directly from Facebook, there's a large portion of teenage girls who can never be allowed to take their So Butters didn't get the right Labubus, so when he goes back to buying the mystery box, he finds out that the price has gone up even more due to the tariffs. He can't even afford to buy a new one, so Luke Kim wants him to try to win it with claw machines, which is basically still gambling to get this thing won. We get another great news alert from Fox, who continues to glaze Trump for his relationship with Satan.
Born again!
Yeah, this whole bit is not exactly slow. So Jesus goes to investigate the Asian pop-up shop and warns Luke Kim that his balls are cursed. And I thought Luke Kim's response was incredibly funny.
Keep going.
Destiny awaits.
While they're distracted, Butters manages to get lucky and win the rare Labubu, and he dips out before Jesus can warn him. So meanwhile, at the White House, Satan is feeling pretty down about all of this when, of course, my new favorite character shows up just in time to comfort him.
Why are you so sad?
I genuinely think this is the one bit from this season that will never get old to me. I don't know what it is, but J.D. Vance's character is so funny, and I can never get enough of it. So Satan reveals to Vance that he can't leave because of something inside the box, but he's not willing to reveal what it is. So Butter shows up to Red's party with the new Labubu, and Red absolutely loses her mind, telling Butters how much she loves him. And with this Labubu, the ritual can take place. But Butters doesn't really seem to understand what's going on. So immediately get started with the ritual, and Butters watches on in horror as the darkness is summoned. Satan ends up showing up as well, which of course means that Fox needs to recover. But just as Satan goes to leave, Jesus shows up to face him. And honestly, I was half expecting them to start throwing hands like they did in season 1, but instead Jesus just commits him to heals realm. Seeing no other option, Satan finally confirms the rumors of Trump and says that he can't leave because he's pregnant. Okay, Fox News then calls on possible. And most importantly, Kid Rock being over. The episode ends with Jesus banning Labubus and TikTok from school, and Butters and Brett both get attention. Now let's talk about what I liked about this episode and what all of this means. So without a doubt, my favorite part of this episode was definitely the satanic rituals being done with Labubus. I'm a massive sucker for comedy that suddenly introduce elements of horror in the story, which is probably why I love Little Bitter Christmas so much, and I think here it was done super well. The initial scene of the ritual was genuinely creepy, and it made for one of the funniest parts of this episode. I also think it's interesting how the girls just kind of go along with the satanic rituals, seemingly without any purpose besides making a TikTok. Like, none of them ever explain why they're actually doing the ritual. They're essentially driven into literal Satanism exclusively for TikTok clout, which is sadly not too far off from reality. I also really like that Luke Kim played such a large role in this episode. He's always funny, and he ended up being a pretty appropriate choice to play the role of the company passing the tariff expenses off to the customer, considering his long history of bizarre business ventures. It was also nice to have Jesus play a leading role in an episode again. It's been a very long time since he's truly been one of the focuses of an episode. episode, and I thought he worked really well here, essentially playing the straight man to contrast just how absurd all of the Labubu demon worship stuff was. He had some pretty funny moments, and the parallels with this episode and Season 1's Damien were definitely not lost on me. You know, Satan having a child and having an epic showdown with Jesus, I thought that was pretty cool. I thought Butters was also pretty great in this episode. Like I mentioned earlier, I love the random callback to his bush obsession, and I really enjoyed the similarities that this episode had with Raisins. Although one thing that is kind of different is that it seems like Red might actually like Butters, at least a little bit, but I mean, who knows? It definitely was set up to make it seem like she was just using him. And I didn't mention it earlier, but at the end of the episode when Jesus is talking to Butters and Red, Butters says this.
Yeah, I'm not having sex for a long time.
The reason I didn't mention it earlier is because I really didn't understand that line. Like, you didn't even have sex, why would you say that? But literally as I'm writing the script, I just realized that Butters still thinks they did have sex and that the whole satanic ritual thing is just how you have sex. And now that I understand that, that is actually a pretty hilarious line. Satan also played a big role in the episode, and for me personally, it will always be funny to have the devil play the role of a soft, sensitive, dejected lover trying to navigate a toxic relationship. That's a huge part of what made the South Park movie so great, and it's great here as well. And like I mentioned, the JD Vance scene was so funny to me. I know it's so stupid, he just looks funny, but it's that combined with his voice and the things he says, I don't know, dude, it's the funniest shit ever to me, and I don't know why. Now, having Satan be pregnant with Trump's baby definitely feels like it's setting up to be a large part of the rest of the season, and I'm pretty interested to see where they go with it. I wonder if they're gonna bring back Damien, since he was shown to be Satan's son back in Season 1, and I think it would be pretty cool to see him again. And if you know anything about the modern South Park fandom, particularly the younger crowd, if they brought back Damien on top of the M-Craig stuff, certain subsets of the fandom will never shut up about it. Now, in terms of stuff I didn't like as much about this episode, the first thing you're probably expecting is the Fox Trump stuff. Now, I will say I didn't dislike this part of the episode. I found it mildly amusing. There just wasn't a lot of substance to it. For the most part, it was just the same gag of Fox fanboying over the fact that Trump is the joke, of course, being that not only is he Satan, but he's also Satan. It seems like Matt and Trey are really into these wordplay jokes this season, and I don't mind them personally. It wasn't annoying or anything, it was just forgettable for the most part, but I actually think that almost played in its favor. In the last couple of episodes, it felt like the Trump stuff can sort of derail the main plot, but here I felt like it was just sort of there as a bit of filler to add on top of the main plot, which sounds like a bad thing, but in my opinion, I liked it better this way than when the Trump stuff just completely dominates like it has recently. And my last major complaint about this episode has to be, once again, the lack of the boys. I mean, I've said it in my last two videos, but it just continues to apply. I would love nothing more than a plot focus around the main boys. Now, don't get me wrong, this was still a solid episode all around, but like I've said, the boys are the core of the show. I mean, we're 4 episodes in, and Kyle has had literally 2 lines the entire season so far, and Stan hasn't had a major role either in any of the episodes. I'm still holding out hope that they're going to go back to the boys at some point, because the boys are the reason that we all came to love South Park. But with that, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about this episode. All around, it was solid and had a lot of fun moments. If I were ranking the episodes of the season, I'd probably put this one behind the first 2, but the third one, it was good, and I'm hoping for something even better next. So I'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks. Also, quick reminder to go check out Leonardo's vision for this entire time I've been making this video, so seriously go check it out. Awesome product.
I am ready to put on a show!
Much better.
Alright, class, settle down.
Got another
So I'm sure that all of you are familiar with my previous lecture detailing every controversy in South Park history. It is my most popular lecture, and it was your homework to review this lecture before class today, so if you haven't reviewed it, say something now. You. I can see it in your eyes. You definitely
This is real firepower!
Even went as far as to say that maybe the most controversial episode of any show that has aired on television. And while I gave a brief history of those episodes, this story goes far deeper than you can imagine. These 2 episodes of a cartoon triggered a chain of events that led to international media coverage, threats of terrorism, and new recruiting methods for extremist groups. It even brought us right to the brink of World War III. Okay, that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but as you'll see, the threat of real-world violence was very much present. Hearing all of this, you may be inclined to ask, what could they have possibly done in these episodes to warrant this response? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is the story of 200 and 200. This is that time South Park almost started.
This is real firepower!
To start, let's break down what exactly happened in these episodes. Chances are the majority of you have never seen these episodes since they have been completely wiped off the face of the earth in terms of legal ways to watch them, as they were completely banned from television and streaming services. The only way to watch them would be to either purchase them through a specific Season 14 DVD box or to watch them illegally online. Now, I would never encourage any sort of piracy or illegal activity, which is why I must warn you not to visit southparkuncensored.com, where they have the entire episode for free. Again, do not visit southparkuncensored.com, as that would be piracy. Piracy is wrong. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Season 14, Episode 5 of South Park's 200th
I'm ready to put on a show!
10. To celebrate, Randy decided they were going to look back at South Park's most infamous moments. It would be a massive celebration.
This is real firepower!
The episode kicks off with the fourth grade class on a field trip to a fudge factory. Cartman and Kyle are doing their usual bickering, with Kyle calling Cartman fat and Cartman calling him a Jew. Kyle mentions that Cartman doesn't have a dad.
Armed hell and dangerous!
His mother is an appetite and it is clear right now that this episode contains a lot of callbacks to celebrate the show's most iconic jokes and episodes. This becomes even more clear when Butter sees an employee at the fudge factory that catches his eye. It's Tom Cruise. They point out that Tom Cruise is a fudge factor, as he is currently packing fudge. Cruise is incredibly offended by this remark, completely denying his fudge packing and threatening to sue the boys and the town for claiming he is a fudge factor. This is in reference to the episode Trapped in the Closet, which caused its own major controversy due to its critique of Scientology, as well as the portrayal of Tom Cruise, who was placed in a closet for the entirety of the episode, completely refusing to come out of the closet. My previous lecture goes into a deeper look at the entire controversy, but in short, Tom Cruise was not happy about his portrayal in this episode, threatening to sue and possibly having the episode pulled from the BBC broadcast. Cruise, because of his anger from being called a fudge factor, decides he will not take this seriously off. He calls together every single celebrity that has ever been
This is real firepower!
He suggests a class action lawsuit and everyone in
This is real firepower!
You're ready to a lot of
problem solved! Just the door down the hall there coming from
I am ready to put on a show!
No, that's a closet. Down here, that's a closet. No. You're welcome. That's a closet.
The celebrities decide to file a Stan calls to the principal's office, where Randy and the rest of the adults in town are waiting to explain to him the situation and ask him why he felt the need to call Tom Cruise a fudge packer. Randy takes Stan to apologize to Tom Cruise for calling him a fudge packer, while of course he is in the process of packing fudge. Cruise is unwilling to drop the lawsuit, unless he brings someone to him that he has always wanted to do.
Muhammad, the prophet of the Muslim faith. You're welcome. That's tricky.
Why is that tricky, you may ask? Well, in 2006, the two-part Cartoon Wars series was released, in which Parker and Stone wanted to show an image of Muhammad in response to Michelan's post in Muhammad Cartoons Controversy, in which a Danish newspaper published comics that contained images of the Muslim prophet. Again! And reportedly over 200 people died during protests directly related to these comics. For those that don't know, many branches of the Muslim faith prohibit any sort of depictions of Muhammad. Parker and Stone wanted to make a statement about how no topic is off-limit when it comes to humor, and that either everything is okay or nothing is okay. Comedy Central, being afraid of a similar situation to this one, decided they were going to censor the image of Muhammad. This meant the entire point of the episode, that giving into terrorism is allowing terrorism to work, was essentially null and void. Knowing this, you now understand why Stan and Randy were a bit hesitant about getting Tom Cruise. When they give it a town
I am ready to put on a show!
This is real firepower!
Besides, know what he looks like in his findings, no one has ever seen him. This is when Stan reveals that he actually has seen him. Actually, a lot of people think that everything is totally fine. This is the Season 5 episode of Super Best Friends. Muhammad is in the episode kind of a lot. This episode is actually banned now. However, up until Cartoon Wars when Matt and Trey pointed it out for Central, the episode was totally fine and allowed to air with no issue. After Stan reveals he knows where to find Muhammad, we are brought back to Tom Cruise's evil lair, where his true intentions are revealed. While everyone assumed Cruise was just trying to end the town of South Park, his true plan was to find a way to harvest Muhammad's power. What is this power?
Muhammad has a power that makes him impervious to being made fun of. What if we could harness that power?
The power cannot be made fun of. Since Muhammad is the only person that you can't make fun of, it only makes sense to use him to harness this power. Just then, Cartman arrives and reveals that he is there for a celebrity associate that wants to get in on the deal.
Jennifer Lopez! Hey, Jen! Oh, wow!
This is another callback, and I've already explained so many of them that I gotta cut some of them, but just know that Cartman's hand looks like Jennifer Lopez, and everyone believes it, but it's actually a con man named Mitch Connor who is impersonating Jennifer Lopez to steal the goo that allows Muhammad to not be made fun of. Simple stuff, really.
Pick your
Meanwhile,
hero.
Stan and Kyle
Or
arrive
villain.
at the
I'm
Hall
not
of the Super
judging.
Best Friends, this being another callback to the previously mentioned episode in which all of the religious figures of the world
I will
work
bring
together to
peace to
fight
this
crime.
universe, no
You know, I
matter
didn't
the
realize how
cost.
much deep lore this show has until I started writing the script. Well, anyways, they realize Muhammad isn't there, and they have to convince the Super Best Friends to get him. They begin proposing different ideas to have Muhammad be not seen and given to Tom Cruise. They get frustrated, but Joseph Smith reminds them of why this is important.
You need to understand that people get very offended when Muhammad is mocked because he's a religious figure.
I will bring peace to this
They
universe.
finally decide
I do
that
the
they will
right
place
thing
Muhammad
unless
in
the
the back
wrong
of a
thing is
U-Haul
more
truck
fun.
where Tom Cruise can talk to him. Meanwhile,
30
Tom
seconds
Cruise
before you
learns from
attack.
Rob
Get
Reiner that they
ready.
need to harvest the goo inside of Muhammad, as that is what makes him
What
impossible
manner
to
of
be made fun
creature
of.
are you?
This is another
None of
callback
your
to Rob
business.
Reiner and his goo
When
in
you
the
enter
anti-smoking
my
episode. Again, it's a
I
whole
will
thing, and I don't want to get into it right now.
I'm never
So they
coming
construct a
anywhere
machine
near
to
your
transfer his
flocking
goo to
realm.
the user.
You can count
So
on
now
that.
Muhammad is in the back of the U-Haul and ready to go. When they realize that Tom Cruise wants Muhammad in his limo.
The battle
He
starts
still
in
isn't
5,
allowed to be shown though,
4,
so they decide they
3,
need to put him in a
2,
mascot costume to
1.
pass him over. The limo
All you need
arrives,
to do is
and
capture the
Muhammad
mission
dressed in a
area.
bear
Got
costume
it?
is walking towards the limo.
Use his
But
power
just
for
then,
good.
Mr. Garrison reveals that he received a letter from an extremist group saying that they will bomb South Park if they give Muhammad to the celebrities. They don't believe the letter, and as they're walking Muhammad, it suddenly explodes. When they look closer at the note, it reveals that the group wants Muhammad for the same reason as
I am at your service.
his power to be ridiculed. So, exactly who are these radical extremists that don't want
Looks
to
like
be
the
made
mission
fun of?
area is yours to capture now. The mission area is yours.
And every
Yeah, that makes sense. Then we see that Cartman has walked out with Mitch Connor, saying that he doesn't want to go along with the plan anymore. This is until Mitch Connor mentions that he has stolen Cartman's thoughts. He tells him that everything about his mom and Aphrodite was a lie to protect him. He can help him find out who his real dad is. Hearing this, Cartman is back on board. Back with the residents of South Park, they realize they have no choice to give Muhammad to the Gingers. Tom Cruise is incredibly upset. He realizes that the only way to get what he wants is to fight fire with fire. He needs to threaten them with violence to get his way. And who does he call upon for such a large task? He calls on her. The one celebrity that hasn't appeared in this episode yet, but is more powerful and holds more hatred towards South Park than all of the others combined. Barbara Streisand. Or should I say Mecha Streisand, as she was turned into a kaiju way
You
back.
captured more than half of
They
the mission area.
reactivate her,
Keep
and being
going.
that she has more beef with the town than anyone else, she is ready to go. Meanwhile, Cartman visits Mr. Garrison and invites him to speak with Mr. Hat, another name that we have in It's Mr. Garrison. Back in town, the Gingers arrive, and demand that Muhammad comes out of the coffin. Born again! And we end with Mr. Hat results of Cartman's paternity test were altered. Okay, so that's episode 2. Pretty typical South Park, lots of callbacks to the episode,
Tremble before fire!
all around, it was a good episode with an interesting cliffhanger. I sure hope it doesn't cause any sort of extreme backlash.
You might want to look over here.
I have found resistance, please.
Yeah, we probably should
cosmic might returns.
Shortly after the airing of 200, a post was made on the website Revolution, which was known for its extremist and fundamentalist Muslim views, often praising acts of violence committed in the name of Islam. The post read as follows: "We have to warn Matt and Trey that what they are doing is stupid and they will probably wind up like Theo Van Gogh for airing this show. This is not a threat, but a warning of the reality of what will likely happen to them." The post included a photo of Theo Van Gogh after he was killed by a Muslim extremist. Theo was a Dutch filmmaker who had previously made a documentary surrounding the violence against women in some Islamic societies.
30 seconds before you
The
attack.
post also
Get
included
ready.
the addresses of Comedy Central's New York and Los Angeles headquarters, South Park Studios, and even a Colorado home owned by Matt and Trey, stating you can contact them or pay them a visit at
Believe it or
these
not,
addresses.
I
So
have a
basically, the
dark
post
side.
said, listen, this
Or at
is
least
not
I
a
do.
threat, and we're not encouraging
expelled it.
anything, but we killed this dude for a pretty similar reason, and if we're looking at history, I mean, there's a pretty good chance something similar will happen to you guys, so fellow extremists viewing this post, do
All
with
you
this
need to do is
information what
capture
you
the
will.
mission area.
Oh, and here
Got
is a
it?
list of all the possible places they could be at
One of
any
these
given
days,
time.
I need to
Again,
sit
this
down
isn't
with
a
Rocket
threat
and
per
exchange
se,
ideas.
just letting you guys know. Sincerely, Extremist Group. When this post was made, it was quickly covered by major news outlets. This was the first time something like this had happened in the US, and with it being a show as popular as South Park, the media absolutely wanted it. Major news organizations like CNN and ABC were discussing the possibility of looking deeper into the story. CNN had actually interviewed the man who made the post a year before, where he claimed that he's not encouraging violence at all times. In the same interview, he also said that the 9/11 attacks were justified, so yeah. I mean, it definitely doesn't seem like the things he said are encouraging violence. He's just praising those who do commit violence. That's like totally different. This is real fire! Really big deal. And as next week's episode was getting closer, people wondered what the show would do. Would they give in to the terrorists? Would they stand their ground as a protest against acts of terrorism? Well, in true South Park fashion, Matt and Trey didn't care. They still planned on creating the episode exactly as they planned it initially, including Muhammad. In their minds, to give in to these threats would be the ultimate hypocrisy, since the entire purpose of these episodes was to stand against the use of violence to censor those who think differently. They were meant to be statements about the importance of free speech and how giving into terrorism even once will encourage others to do the same thing for the things they disagree with. In their minds, making the distinction between what is okay to make fun of and what isn't okay is a slippery slope with potentially dangerous consequences. So, Matt and Trey had refusing to give in to the demands of terrorism and attempting to cross the line that had never been crossed before, even if it cost them their life. They were not going to be back. The only problem is, Matt and Trey don't actually know what they are. That's Comedy Central. Well, let's just say they had different plans in mind.
Your team's capture progress has passed the halfway point.
On April 21st, 2010, part 2 of the 200
Maximum pulse!
simply titled We Are in This Together. We are right back where we left off, with the genders demanding to see it. Wait, why can't I say that? Well, that's because Comedy Central decided they didn't agree with the messages Matt and Trey were trying to put out, and gave in to the demands of the terrorists. So, when the episode was aired, anytime they would even say the name of the prophet of the Muslim faith, it was censored. Not only that, all images of the completely censored from the episode. So much censoring was done that if you hadn't seen the first part, you would have no clue who they were talking to. So, Comedy Central did exactly what Matt and Trey had been told not to do and officially made the distinction of what is okay to make fun of. Better understand what the messages are supposed to be. Also, the story does not end at the airing of this episode. Stick around for so, the Gingers are demanding to see him, and it's in count 3 to let him out of the suit. As it turns out, he was never in the suit, and it was really Santa Claus the whole time, because if they were going to give him to someone while being completely hidden, of course they weren't going to put the real one inside. We also get a quick cameo from Mr. Hanger. We cut to the super best friends who hear of trouble at Casa Bonita, Mecha Streisand is loose and destroying everything in her path, with Casa Bonita being a victim of destruction. Then, Cartman arrives at the genetic lab to meet with the professor, the man who did the paternity test for Cartman back in season 1. He's there to get the truth about his father. Then we go back to Max This time,
I am ready to put on a show! My
Born again! Stan and Kyle meet up with Kenny, who is hiding the real. As previously mentioned, he is completely censored and doesn't say anything. They come up with a plan to satisfy the needs of both the Gingers and the celebrities. They need to go to the Mephisto's lab. The super best friends show up and take on Mecha Streisand, however, their powers are no match for him. Meanwhile, Stan, Kyle, and Kenny arrive at the lab. They ask Mephisto to clone him so that both the celebrities and the Gingers can have him. The super best friends radio back to Moses to ask for help in coming up with a plan to take down Barbra Streisand. They decide to distract her with the one thing that she cannot resist.
Oh, I know. Barbra Streisand can't resist singing duets with Neil Diamond.
Then they split up to go get everything they need. Back at Mephisto's lab, the Gingers break in and kidnap everyone. Since they now have they radio over to Tom Cruise and tell him they're willing to share if the celebrities allow them to use the goo machine. Cartman is nowhere to be seen, and when they ask the Gingers about him, they reveal that he is with the head
right heroes
Ginger.
could make all
we
the
see
difference.
Cartman in a dark room, which is then lit up to reveal a chili-themed carnival. Chili-themed carnival, where have I seen that before? And that voice sounds pretty familiar. Wait,
I will bring peace to this universe, no matter the cost.
that's right, the head Ginger is Scott Tenorman, the kid whose parents Cartman killed and then fed to him in chili because he scammed him out of $16.12. Meanwhile, Jesus finishes constructing the stage for the duet. Oh, I literally just now got the joke that he's a carpenter, so
I
he does
tend
stuff.
to lost souls,
Anyways,
like a
the
shepherd
duet
tends
with
to
Neil
his
Diamond
flock.
and Mecha Streisand begins. Scott Tenorman then reveals to Cartman that he spent time in a
They'll be
mental
coming in 30
institution after that
seconds.
traumatic
Stay
event
strong.
where he would study Cartman's life, plotting for revenge. He even learned the name of his real father. At the Ginger layers, the celebrities begin the process of the goo transfer. Tom Cruise is the first to go, and it's a success, and he is now completely censored himself. They can no longer make fun of. Oh, come on, I can't say that now either. Scott Tenorman then brings Cartman in front of the entire town and his mother to reveal the truth. It turns out the group they were protecting
You have to stop them from
Denver
securing the mission area.
Back with the celebrities, they're deciding who will go next in the goo machine. While arguing, the super best friends break in and begin fighting. Scott then reveals the right tackle for the Denver Broncos had an affair with Cartman's mother, and everyone in the town covered it up.
The cosmos heals you.
He also reveals that Cartman will never be able to meet his real father, and that's when he drops a bombshell, revealing who exactly Cartman's father is.
Did I ever tell you?
Quantum magic.
Andy needs help.
That's right. Cartman killed his own father and fed him to his afro. Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus Christ. The super best friends break in the door and then begin attacking, causing Stan to remark.
I feel better already.
All of a sudden, Tom Cruise is no longer censored. He doesn't understand how he can be made fun of again if he had absorbed Muhammad's food. And that's when Kyle reveals that there is no food, and he goes again! Now, when this episode aired, this entire speech was nearly a minute long for the entire place. Most people assume they were broke by the creators, but as it turns out, it wasn't both code and censored.
This is real firepower!
With Kyle discussing how there is no magical tool. The only true magical power is that they don't want to get made fun of. All they need are guns and bombs.
Bright like a star!
Saying that all you need to do is still fear and willing to hurt people.
We are in this together.
The irony is so strong. We then cut to Cartman crying, completely distraught at the news of his father. When the boys come over to try and cheer him up, he reveals that he's not actually sad because of the whole murder of his own father being in your half-brother but rather because his wife is a Ginger. Then Mitch Connor appears to encourage him, and remind him that while he's half ginger, he's also half ginger, which is pretty cool. With that, he has to move on due to the warrants out for his arrest, and he does so. Finally, the boys go and apologize to Tom Cruise, who is he says that he's tired of being to find someone
I am ready to put on a show!
The boys want him back, and in one final callback, Tom Cruise on the movie. Immediately following the release of 201, both episodes were banned from ever airing on television again, were not allowed on the South Park Studios website, were removed from all streaming services, and only be found within one DVD. Every other episode of South Park containing Muhammad was also removed from their streaming services, including the original Super Best Friends and both of the cartoons. To put it lightly, Matt and Trey did not have to do a censorship in this episode. They posted a statement to the South Park Studios website detailing their disappointment with Comedy Central, stating how in 14 years they have never released an episode that they stand by. They had sent their version of the episode to Comedy Central, who decided to alter it. They ended the statement with a slightly passive-aggressive remark, stating, "We'll be back next week with a whole new show about something completely different."
I feel better already.
Despite the threats of backlash, no action was ever taken against Comedy Central or South Park. It's hard to know whether the censorship actually prevented any violence from occurring, though I personally find it hard to believe that the type of person willing to do these kinds of things would have their mind changed by some bleeding. If you're like me, you're probably wondering what happened to the band who made the post initially that caused this violence. I mean, surely he wasn't arrested for this. Like, he clearly states in the post that it was not so that's like a rock solid argument. During the CNN interview, he even brought on an expert to discuss how what he was saying is ineffective and that he can't be arrested.
Certainly the
It's spider time!
but he was certainly not specific to get any
Topped me off. Thanks.
Jesse Morton ended up serving 3 years for 11
I am ready to put on a show!
FBI informant while in prison. He would immediately renounce his former beliefs and upon release would work as a counterterrorism researcher at George Washington University, where he would receive many accolades for his work. In 2021, he would go on a podcast with documentary maker Andrew Gold and discuss his involvement in the threat. He offered a lot of insight into how these extremist groups are able to radicalize people, discussing how they never of these radical movements. He only pretended to care because it would help him recruit and radicalize more people. In his opinion, I did not have any opposition to the South Park writers portraying the Prophet Muhammad, but I knew that it would be good for recruitment, so I ran it. Let's use that to propagate our belief. That has become one of the most easy arguments to make for general Muslims. Look, they are insulting your prophet, and religion demands that you defend the prophet, and we're the only ones that are defending him. The rest of the Muslim community is staying silent, therefore we must be on the truth. Come join us. So not only was the largest controversy in television history over a cartoon drawing, but it was started by someone who didn't actually care at all.
I have risen.
Morton would unexpectedly die later that year at the age of 43. So, what can we learn from this absolutely insane controversy? The biggest takeaway that I see from this is the importance of avoiding censorship. You see, by allowing freedom of speech, we are in this together. If you take anything away from this issue, just remember that I feel better already.
The cosmos heals you.
He stopped them in their tracks! Only 60 seconds left!
Our aquatic enemies have been eliminated. Healing
Find the exploding plasma!
Triple play.
Get ready! Here come the bad guys!
just say no. And whether they say, look, you're right, you have this should be completely up to parity. We don't want to risk it, and we don't want to go to court, and they sue everybody.
Our number one story in Afghanistan, Scientology and South Park.
We were told that the people involved in Impossible 3 demanded that show be pulled off, and it was. One of the touchiest episodes was about time
This is real firepower!
Behold the god of thunder!
I am ready to put on a show!
Hayes said he left because of quote, inappropriate
Gotta keep fighting and keep
Good child!
Born again!
As you can see, today we're talking about one of South Park's most controversial. Now, if you've attended any of my lectures in the past, you're probably well aware of the fact that South Park is pretty controversial. In fact, you probably have at least some knowledge on the controversy we'll be talking about today, considering its large section in my most popular lecture and the large-scale news coverage it received at the time. But even if you watch that lecture, you probably don't know the details of the situation, and through my research, I discovered that this rabbit hole goes so much deeper than I ever thought possible. Today, we're talking about that time that South Park took on one of the scariest looming threats in all of Hollywood. An organization that struck fear into the hearts of anyone who would speak out against them. Considered for many years to be completely off limits in cities, we're talking Scientology. Well,
by the eye of Agamotto!
Used to be true. That is until South Park made this episode and proved that they were significantly more sparse and biased. In fact, it's very likely that this single episode of South Park not only exposed the true nature of Scientology to the general public for the very first time, but started to change the actual events that caused such immense, irreversible damage to the group that their continuing descent into obscurity can be directly traced back to the release of this episode. To put it simply, this cartoon directly led to the downfall of the world's most successful cult. It also might have caused some more minor effects outside of Scientology. For example, it led to threats of legal action from one of the most famous people in the world. It nearly canceled the media tour for Mission Impossible 3. It led to an incredibly invasive private investigation that included attempted espionage. It caused one of the main voice actors from the show to quit after 10 years, and it might have even been the inciting incident that would lead to that same actor's untimely death just a few years later. You know,
I will
just
bring
minor
peace
stuff.
to this
Now,
universe,
that might
no matter
sound
the
like a lot,
cost.
but I promise you all will be explained in time. And trust me, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Because this is that time South Park took down an entire religion. You know what else Tom Cruise is often associated with? Fighter jets. And you know who else loves fighter jets? Everyone, so that's why you should go and check out today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. You can take command of over 2,500 different vehicles, including tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships. War Thunder also has one of the most sophisticated vehicle damage models in all of gaming. Every vehicle is intricately modeled down to its individual components, like engines, fuel tanks, weapons, and crew, all susceptible to damage or disabling from enemy fire. The game also offers an insanely comprehensive customization system with countless different camos, historical markings, decorations, and all types of stuff for all different types of vehicles. Thanks to all these small little details, it is incredibly easy to become immersed in the intense combat of War Thunder. My favorite part of War Thunder is just how intense the combat gets. When you're fully immersed in this game, it really is a feeling that's hard to describe. And the best part is, this game is totally free. You can play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Just use my link in the video description or pinned comment to sign up. And if you're a new player or you haven't played in over 6 months, you get a massive bonus pack out. Multiple premium vehicles, and exclusive decorator, 100,000 silver lives, and 7 days of free accounts. And this is only for a limited time, so that's why you need to go click the video description or pinned comment and come join a worldwide most heroes 70 million players by downloading War Thunder. Thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video.
Anything could hurt me.
I am the most heroes. Now, I'm going to assume that you all know what Scientology is by now, but I think it's important to give some general information about the religion, and I use that word very lightly, as well as get an idea of what the general public's knowledge of Scientology was like before the release of this episode. In short, they didn't know much. In 2005, Scientology had already been around for decades, with many sources claiming the church peaked anywhere from the late 70s to the early 90s. In terms of how many Scientologists there were at their peak, it's pretty ambiguous, with some people claiming they never broke 30,000 and others claiming upwards of 700,000. As you'll see, the church tends to be pretty unreliable when releasing any information. The true scale of Scientology is hard to know. At the time of the 2000s, the general public had heard of Scientology. Like I said, it had been around for decades, and over that time, it had picked up some rather unique themes, such as public matters, as early as the 1990s, and quickly became the base of the church. This meant that knowledge of Scientology was very sensitive. People had heard of it, but no one really knew anything about it, as the church was a rather low profile. So, when the face of Scientology went on Oprah in May of 2005, acting like he had been hitting the slopes in the green room, people started to wonder just what the hell did Scientology do to this man?
I'm not gonna pretend.
You know, Katie once told 17 magazine. You're idiots.
Though he didn't directly speak on Scientology in the interviews, he would have made statements that directly echoed the beliefs of Scientology, going after the server antidepressant use. You see, Scientology doesn't really like the idea of psychiatry. In fact, Dianetics, one of the core principles of Scientology, was created as essentially a replacement for psychiatric care. A month later, in an interview with Matt Lauer, Cruz would expand on his views, calling psychiatry a pseudoscience and condemning any use of psychiatric drugs. Interestingly enough, he actually made some points about the over-prescription of these medications that are reasonable and make sense. The problem was his insistence that there are absolutely no cases where they should be used, and his refusal to accept psychiatry as a legitimate medical practice. Also, the fact that as the interview went on, it seems like he's getting increasingly angrier, starkly contrasting the lighthearted, joking attitude he shared literally moments ago, to the point where he's essentially yelling at Matt Lauer.
And you should do that also, because just knowing people are on rhythm, figuring out you should be a little bit more responsible for knowing really describing rhythm, Tom.
So for the first time, the general public gets a small glimpse into the beliefs of this group, and their first impression is that Scientology, by the name, seems to be rather far removed from any sort of field, and the main spokesperson for the group seems that he himself might benefit from psychiatric care. So now, all the general public knows about Scientology is that they don't believe in psychiatry, and their main spokesman might be insane. And with that, the creator of an adult decided to do some digging. And what they found shocked them so much that they knew they had to turn to the public, and this would be the beginning of the end.
Alright. Hurricane incoming! Disappear!
On November 16th, 2005, episode 12 of the 9th season of South Park would air on Comedy Central, simply titled Trapped in the Closet. The episode opens with the boys looking for something fun to do on a Saturday. Stan is thinking that they're doing something else pretty since Cartman, being annoyed by this, finds Stan at the first law of physics. The rest of the boys report their laser tag. Side note, you know you're broke when even can afford to do something that you can. So while Stan is out looking for some fun, free activities, he just so happens to pass by some friendly folks offering free personality tests and talking about something called Scientology. Apparently, it's a whole new thing, as celebrities like Tom Cruise and John Travolta are Scientologists themselves. Stan begins to notice that all of this is very religion-like, so he asks about it, and their response isn't very reassuring.
How come that sign is the Church of Scientology?
Hold that just a second. What's the different Broncos record now? Season 2?
One of the Scientologists then begins asking Stan some questions, and by the time he's done, he comes to the conclusion that Stan is horribly miserable and depressed. In his mind, there is only one solution.
What am I? Invisible?
Stan then heads home to discuss his depression with his parents, asking them to pay for $1,000. They say that if he really wants it, he should spend money on a show. And even though he's a bit more hesitant, he decides that upon paying the fee, they begin to explain the history of Scientology. The founder himself is L. Hubbard. Now, L. has his own extensive history that the episode doesn't dive into detail. However, they do some facts who was a science fiction. During his life, he built up a rather large resume as a serial scammer and is known for absolutely incredible things, such as you don't get rich writing science fiction. If you want to get rich,
This place is looking good, look.
bit on the nose there.
A nice
They
deep
continue
freeze.
to explain that he discovered that the body has negative emotions, which can be read by a device called behavior. Now, at this point, you may notice that it seems like they really did a lot of research into how science treats people, and according to ex-Scientologists, the portrayal is very accurate.
So these are actual questions now, my Scientology personality. I mean, that's exactly how that goes. The standard response is every time on the test evaluation, they go, Scientology. And then they sell you an introductory course.
Well, there's a reason. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Andy Gold. Funnily enough, he's the same guy who interviewed Jesse Morton, the man who made the threats towards South Park after episode 200. Made a whole video about that if you want to check it out. But Andrew also interviewed Mark Headley, an ex-Scientologist who now advocates against Scientology. This interview provided me with tons of information about how exactly South Park impacted Scientology, and I highly recommend you go listen to it if you have the time, as I will be referencing it throughout this video. In this interview, Mark mentions that one of the reasons South Park was so knowledgeable on Scientology is because they consulted with a man named Mark Hebner, a journalist who had been researching Scientology for decades, going as far as to go undercover as a potential recruit for Scientology. He's essentially an expert in Scientology, and Matt and Trey worked directly with him while making this episode. So while Stan gets his
You'll need a
letters
top-notch
read,
team to
they
win
quickly
this one.
realize that Stan is a
I will
very
bring peace
special
to this
boy.
universe,
There's
no
only
matter
one
the
person
cost.
who ever registered OT9 in the history of our church. Our prophet has returned.
Word spreads fast, and before he knows it, Stan's house is swarmed by Scientologists hoping to get a look at the reincarnation of their prophet. One of the more excited followers even found their way into Stan's room. Of course, it's Tom Cruise, who seeks approval in his acting abilities from Stan.
Perfection
Stan's
is
answer
unattainable.
isn't
I will bring
exactly
peace
what
to
Tom
this
is looking
universe.
for, and he heads to the only place he knows.
occasionally takes stuff that doesn't belong to him. Asgard has been invaded yet again.
You're not Gene Hackman
But
or
as
that guy that played
always,
Napoleon 30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Who are you calling a raccoon, huh?
Dad, Tom Cruise won't come out of the closet.
Try as they might, they cannot manage to get Tom Cruise to leave the closet, even when R. Kelly
I
shows
will
up to give
leave
his 2
this
cents.
universe a better place than it was before I was created.
himself in the closet, so I pull out my gun.
The current leader of Scientology
battle
decides that
starts in
Stan
5,
needs to know all of the
4,
secrets of
3,
Scientology.
2,
So he sits him down
1.
to explain the actual beliefs of Scientology. I'm not going to explain the whole clip, I'll link it in the description if you want to watch it, but the story is incredibly fantastic. It includes tales of Xenu, aliens, intergalactic airplanes, soul catchers, brainwashing, and stealing the souls possessed by mankind. Completely unrelated, but remember how they mentioned L. Ron Hubbard, who's a science fiction writer? Anyway, throughout the entire team, a text box appears at the bottom of the screen. This is what Scientologists actually believe in all caps. And as it turns out, yeah, this is what Scientologists actually believe. But actually, the vast majority of Scientologists don't know this story, as it's kept very secret. Now you may be thinking, why would a religion that's trying to convert people want to keep their beliefs secret? Isn't that kind of like the opposite of what you would want to do? And that's correct. In fact, if I didn't know any better, I might say that this behavior seems to be more in line with what a cult would do. But as we'll talk about in a little bit, there's a good reason why they don't want this information out there. So after Stan is educated on the full truth of Scientology, he's asked to continue where he left off and add to the sacred doctrine. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise is still a headlocker. In fact, he's denying that he's even in the closet to begin with.
Rockets, launch it again!
I'm not in the closet.
So while Stan is writing his new sacred doctrine,
One of these
the
weird
rest of the boys
keyhole
tell him
things.
that
You're
they're
welcome.
concerned about his involvement in this cult, to which Stan
here.
denies that it's
The
real.
moon
He claims that he's
haunts
found
you.
meaning. Back with Tom Cruise, he is in the closet, so they try to use fellow Scientologist John Travolta to get him out. This of course leads to John Travolta going into the closet as well, now also accusing him. And of course, R. Kelly gets his anger.
This is
very exciting. So Stan reveals the most dramatic change that he added.
Best of all, I wrote that all the Scientologists should no longer have
Don't mind me. I'm just dying.
He then goes on to reveal his true
My good deed for the day.
You're halfway there. Keep going.
Those people out there buy that crap, and I thought you were smart enough to see what was really going on. What's better than telling people a stupid story and having them believe you? Having them pay you for it, stupid! Relay deployed!
Check out this area.
But this
No there. Don't turn back now.
scale!
Stan is rather caught off guard at first, but when he starts talking about making millions of dollars,
Tremble before bow! I am Asgard!
Meanwhile, Tom Cruise and John Travolta
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
even
Your powers are mine! This is real firepower!
Now I'm in the closet too.
In the morning, Stan is ready to share his new doctrine with the world. He begins to read, but as he looks out across the sea of people and recognizes just how much this means to so many of them, he knows that he can't do it. He decides that it's best for these people to know
Get
the
that
real
vehicle
truth.
moving again. We're all looking for answers, you know? Sometimes we want to know the answers so badly that we believe just about anything. I'm not the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard. And Scientology is just a big
ready for action? Relay deployed!
This does not go over very well, and all of the Scientologists begin to threaten to sue Stan. This includes Tom Cruise, who finally made it out of the closet, as Stan adamantly this is referencing the fact that Scientology has a very long history of taking legal action against those who have come out against them, starting lawsuits in several different countries over the course of many years. The episode comes to an end with Stan making a final proclamation against the group, and it's pretty clear you can see the creators themselves speaking directly to Scientology.
Only 60 seconds left. Do it.
And as the credits roll, they play into the joke even further by refusing to show any of the actual names of the staff who worked on the episode. Instead, they replace every name with Jane or John Smith. And that's where the episode ends. It's one of my favorites. It has hilarious moments and some scathing commentary, but all around it's a pretty typical episode of South Park. And I gotta say, I'm absolutely certain that all parties being referenced acted completely reasonably after this episode. I really doubt that there was any sort of extreme background.
Ready for action! This is a nice spot! Your powers are mine!
Yeah, we probably should have seen it.
This is real firepower!
I didn't really get into it in the intro, but I mentioned that before this, Scientology was seen as off limits in New York. People were scared to talk about it. The reason for that is that they have a long history.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!
They're kind of known for going to the most extreme especially with the image. For example, in the podcast, Mark mentioned that the group perpetrated the largest infiltration of the U.S. government in history, as thousands of Scientologists were hired into positions in various government organizations and offices in an effort to dispose of unfavorable records about Scientology. Yes, that is real. You can Google it. It's called Operation Silver White. So if they were willing to go that far with the U.S. government, you would assume they definitely weren't about to sit by and watch as a cartoon expose their best-kept secret to the entire world. So they started digging. You see, Scientologist has a branch known as the Office of Special Affairs, or the OSA, whose job it is to essentially investigate and harass anyone that they deem to be enemies of Scientology. Not only that, according to Mark, they have people whose full-time job it is to scrub through every video about Scientology that exists on the internet and transcribe and summarize them.
They're printing out and making copies of and transferring every single.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
Everything.
Which means they are definitely doing that to this video right now. So, hello Scientologists watching this. Hope you're doing good. I'm sure that's a very tiring job. So, best of luck to you. So in 2011, former Scientologist
I will bring
Mark
peace to
Rappaport,
this
who is the
universe,
third Mark
no matter the
connected to
cost.
Scientology that we've talked about in this video, uploaded some documents to his blog about Scientology's look into South Park. These documents detailed how the OSA had been in the process of conducting a full-blown investigation into Trey Parker and Matt Stone, discussing potential, quote, direct lines to
I
Matt
will
and Trey
leave this
through
universe
connections
a better
such as
place than
friends.
it
Quote,
was before
one
I
is
was
Matthew
created.
Frazier, who has been a friend since 1991. Another
30
is John
seconds before you
Stamos, who's
attack.
best friends
Get
with Matt
ready.
Stone. Apparently, his ex-wife, Rebecca Roman, is also good friends with Stone. These documents also detail what they call special collections, or the methods they would use to gather information on Matt and Trey. This included things like going through their trash, purchasing their phone records, hacking airline reservations, and purchasing bank records. According to Mark Headley, they would also do things like get information on the companies catering to South Park Studios, just in case they eventually wanted to get someone to work for those companies to get inside the office. And they would also do things like write down every license plate in the parking lot and run them to identify the owner of the car. They even went as far as to attempt to hire a film student to act as a spy to get a job at I'm just going to go ahead and use the whole document for this one. It's very short,
I need assistance.
I need healing. A PI met with the young filmmaker Turn around, Sherman. The filmmaker recently did an interview with Lloyd Kaufman, a friend of Trey Parker and Matt Stone. He has agreed to assist to establish some call lines with South Park Studios and to try and get intelligence on their plans with regard to Scientology. He is going to approach Kaufman to see if Kaufman can get him an introduction to Parker and Stone, and either possibly get a job as an intern there or as a writer. Parentheses, he has seen every episode of Healing Power.
Back in the day.
If that's all it takes, Scientology will hook me up, dude. I think I would have a lot in that. So Scientology quite literally did everything that they could. Massive, coordinated effort to dig up something negative.
My strength has increased.
So, what did this meticulous, exhaustive investigation reveal about anyone else in South Park Studios? Absolutely. Scientology has never released negative or any employees in South Park Studios. So unless this investigation was even more extensive than we thought, before going on to later, it's safe to assume that they just didn't find anything in this. But why were they so mad in the first place? Why is it so important to keep their beliefs secret? And why would they go to such born again to defend on the dude who made a cartoon about it? Well, there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, because their religion commands it. You see, our old friend Elmo, the creator of Scientology, he dubbed fair game, which identified that, quote, any action expressive person or group is, quote, fair game. That pretty much means if someone is talking bad about Scientology, it's your job to make sure that happens. I don't care how you do it, make sure it's done. And despite the fact that Scientology claimed their practice was discontinued decades ago, they're actually a lot less. So that explains a lot of the history of effectively trying to silence their opposition, lawsuits, for example, Martin case where they tried to sue a whistleblower of the church but ended up having to pay her millions of dollars. Their strategy is always to threaten you or die. And let me be clear, Scientology
with the amazing Spider-Man!
Reminding everyone of all the bad stuff you do, but I do have some great news for you. My journalistic integrity can be bought for a lot less than $1. I mean, you can just slide to 50K and this video will see no question. I'm just saying, so that's the reason why our foes have arrived. You know, the whole Lord Dinu and alien souls watching movies or whatever. Why does it matter that South Park talking about these together? Well, South Park talking about these confidential beliefs was the single action that would seal Scientology's quantum. Allow me to explain. As I mentioned earlier, the general public know very little about Scientology, just like the Scientologists want. All the alien stuff had been released onto the internet at this point, but only the most niche corners of the internet were aware. And Scientology has done a really good job of silencing anyone who dared to share this information through essentially abusing copyright laws. So basically, no one knew about no life healing out. At the same time, 90% of Scientologists cosmic might return. tiny number of Scientologists actually knew about any of us. Mark Edley says that he was at the international headquarters of Scientology for 15 years. He never learned about any of that. He first learned all of that stuff from the South Park episode, and he didn't even believe it. He had to confirm it with his wife, who was taking a higher rate official in Scientology. She told him that exactly what they do. And the reason that most Scientologists know about this stuff is because in order to learn about it, you have to make it to operating kingdom level 3. OT levels in Scientology function essentially as a video game that determines how it's like. But unfortunately, you can't find this
Executioner!
This game is painful because the only way you're moving up the ladder. But while OT3 may not seem very high, Mark estimates that by the time a Scientologist reaches OT level 3, they have spent upwards of $200,000 on Scientology. Now you may be starting to see why Scientology was pretty upset. For the first time ever, the true beliefs of Scientology were even Jenna Miscavige, the niece of David Miscavige, who's the leader of Scientology since the 80s, has talked about how she learned about the Xenu stuff from South Park.
But it did get out. I mean,
This story that was previously only accessible behind a $200,000 paywall was now completely free public information that everyone knew about. As you would imagine, this would essentially destroy Scientology's entire business model, since they profited off of the truth. Combine that with the fact that the story itself sounds like, well, a poor anyone that hears about this will never be joined. However, the release of the episode didn't immediately Scientology. You see, they had their own unique form of contingency. According to Mark, in the church, Scientologists were taught that you could not hear anything about higher OT levels until you made it to those levels yourself. If you did happen to learn about levels that you haven't reached yet, you would get pneumonia and die. So, luckily for Scientology, if any of their members saw any of the stuff in this episode, if they didn't die of pneumonia the next day, then it couldn't be true. Because of this, a lot of the members at the time just thought that it wasn't what Scientologists actually believe. And because the vast majority of these people would never reach OT level 3, it didn't even matter, since they'd never really even know. So while in the short term, it wasn't a massive blow to Scientology, the real way that South Park took down Scientology was by opening the door for others. After South Park ruthlessly went after Scientology and came out completely unscathed, everyone else saw that and thought, huh, I guess Scientology isn't all that scary. There's nothing they can really do. And from that moment on, Scientology was the laughing stock of religions. No one is afraid to make fun of them anymore. Now that they realize that the worst they can do is send some vaguely threatening letters and dig through your trash. Now everyone knows about Scientology's weird beliefs, about Lord Xenu and his army of alien ghosts, and we can all point and laugh at them because of how stupid that is. Most importantly, no one who knows anything about them will join their scam ever again.
No matter the cost.
They have to rely solely on people who live under a rock because the vast majority of the public knows what Scientology is really about. And despite the church's claims of continued growth, some estimates place the total number of Scientologists at less than 10,000 in 2023. A far cry from their numbers long ago. And all of this is the case because South Park wasn't afraid to go after the boogeyman 20 years ago. Even their biggest spokesperson, our boy Tom Cruise, seems to be moving away from the church, as rumors spread about him distancing himself. You know, speaking of Tom Cruise, did he ever make it out of that closet? I totally forgot to check up on him.
Go away!
No, it doesn't seem like he came out of the closet yet, but it does seem like he threatened to sue South Park. Reports say that Tom wasn't too happy about his portrayal in this episode, with Matt and Trey wanting to joke about the rumors that Tom Cruise might be secretly gay. When they discussed this idea with their lawyers, they pointed out that Cruise has a history of suing people who had spoken about his sexuality. So, because this is South Park, their loophole was to place Mr. Cruise in an actual closet. Sources close to Tom Cruise claim that he was not happy about this. completely shocked because he seemed so convincing when he said this.
I never worried
There were rumors that Tom still threatened to sue South Park, but these were never confirmed. However, it seemed like Tom might be the one last, because only a few months later, they were in the closet. You see, they had planned to rebroadcast the episode on Comedy Central in March, but suddenly, and without any explanation, the episode was canceled. Immediately, speculation about Tom Cruise's involvement in the pulling of the episode was seen all over, with anonymous sources claiming that Tom himself had the episode pulled. The narrative was that during his Mission Impossible 3 publicity tour, Cruise had caught wind of the rebroadcast, and he told Paramount, the studio behind Mission Impossible, that he would boycott his own publicity tour if the episode was aired on Comedy Central. Paramount Cruise could do so. 2 days later, Matt released his own official statement on the matter, which went exactly as he expected.
So, Scientology, this virus has a million
I am at your service.
done.
Healing
You have
power.
obstructed us for now, but your
Still got it.
humanity will fail.
Fans of the show were not very happy about the situation, as they rushed to spread pirated copies of the episode online to ensure that it wasn't censored. The full episode was even uploaded on YouTube, where it would amass over 700,000 views. When asked about this, Comedy Central even said that they didn't even ask for a review, pretty much confirming that they didn't seem to mind this kind of piracy. A couple months later, Matt and Trey even hosted a public screening of the episode in a London theater, handing out free copies of the episode to attendees afterwards. They wanted as many people as possible to see this episode, and more importantly, they didn't want to be defeated by Tom Cruise. It would be months before the episode would be rebroadcasted, but eventually in June of 2006, it was broadcasted for the first time since the initial airing. Now during all of this, Tom Cruise remained adamant that he had absolutely nothing to do with the episode. He would discuss it in an interview on ABC. And even though I couldn't find the video of it, I'm gonna read the quote here, and you can tell me whether you believe it or not. First of all, could you ever imagine sitting down with anyone? I would never sit down with someone and question them on their beliefs. Here's the thing, I'm really not even going to dignify this. I honestly didn't even really know about it. I'm working, making my movie, I've got my family, I'm busy. I don't spend my days going, what are people saying about me? Yeah, whatever you say. So that pretty much rounds out the South Park controversy. Following the airing of this episode, Isaac Hayes, the voice of the chef, was imprisoned. Hayes was a Scientologist. Shortly after, he published a statement berating the show for being intolerant and bigoted towards religious beliefs. Matt Stone would release his own statement, clapping back at Hayes, calling out the hypocrisy in profiting off every other religion, but not being able to take it into business. The very first episode of the following season saw a plot in which Chef would be brainwashed by a cult, leaving all of his friends in South Park behind. Despite their best attempts, the boys are unable to rescue him from the cult, where he suffers an absolutely horrific death. This would be the last of Chef that we would see in South Park. Then, 2 years after his departure from the show, Hayes would pass away from a stroke at the age of 65. The circumstances surrounding his death were rather odd, but we'll come back to that in a second. Years later, Isaac Hayes' son would come out and state that his father had suffered from a stroke which left him unable to speak or comprehend much of anything. During this time,
By the eye of Agamotto!
So, while suffering from obvious brain damage, Scientology and as it turns out, Hayes' son wasn't the first to make this accusation, as journalist Roger Friedman, who was a close friend of Hayes, wrote an article the day after Hayes' death that essentially makes the same claims, as well as some shocking ones that I had somehow never heard of until I started researching for this video. He describes an interaction with Matt Stone shortly after the release of the episode, in which he details Hayes coming to him in tears, stating that he was under pressure from Scientology and that he would be forced to quit if they didn't stop making fun of him. A week later, he involved, indicating that his relationship with South Park was together. But the stroke, he has been severely mentally impaired, barely recognizing Roger as his actual shows.
Maximum pulse!
That. On August 10, 2008, Isaac Hayes was found unresponsive in his home on the ground. Stroke. However, an autopsy healing supplies it just left a lot more questions. Why would someone who's recovering from a stroke be on a treadmill alone in their house? Why didn't they do an autopsy? The potential answers all seem to point exactly where we expected. As Roger Friedman mentioned in his article, and as we talked about earlier, Scientology is very much against any kind of psychiatric care or psychotropic drugs, which just so happen to be precisely the kind of drugs
By the eye of Agamotto!
Scientologists also believe in a very specific detox treatment that is used to clear any of these potentially dangerous drugs out of your system. This treatment is known as purification rundown, and it consists of spending hours a day in a sauna alongside consistent exercise and a diet that consists of a bunch of different vitamins, including over 300 times the recommended dose of niacin. So, running back through all this information, we know that Isaac Hayes was recovering from a stroke, likely taking some form of psychotropic meds as part of the treatment. We know that everyone that was consistent and present in his life at this time was a Scientologist. We know that Scientologists hate psychotropic medication and avoids them at all costs. We know that how to involves lots of time spent in the sauna and exercise. And we know that Isaac Hayes was found dead next to a treadmill. Now, some may look at this information and put pieces of this puzzle together and say things like Scientology killed Isaac Hayes, or they're monsters who tarnished his legacy and took advantage of him at his lowest moment because they couldn't stand the fact that he was friends with the people who had criticized them, or even they did all this while actively forcing them to take part in a dangerous pseudoscience treatment that would eventually be the cause of his untimely death. You know, I personally wouldn't make any accusations like that, but some might.
That felt nice. I am at your service.
You know, today, I think we can all rest assured that the trajectory of science
Maximum pulse!
And if it weren't for South Park back in 2005, so now, hopefully, you all have a better understanding of that time that South Park was down the entire thing. Oh yeah, and don't forget to check out our wonderful sponsor, War Thunder. You can check them out on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. Use my link in the pinned comment or the video description to register. Remember, if you're new or you haven't played in 6 months, you'll get that massive bonus pack that includes and a bunch of other cool stuff. So go click my link in the description.
There's still so much to do.
They hit a checkpoint. Now might be a good time to stop them.
There's still so much to do.
Better stop that vehicle.
Healing power.
Alright, class, go ahead and settle down. Settle down for me. Now, you may be asking why I only appear to be an upper body. Well, it's because that's all I can afford when I have some success. That is irrelevant now. Today, we will be having now, what is the most controversial TV show of all time? Okay, time's up. If you said anything other than South Park, not only failed, but you are expelled from this university and sent to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, for those of you that are still here, a follow-up question. Why is South Park so controversial? The correct answer is consistency. Allow me to explain. There's existed many controversial shows in the time since television. They're ahead of us. And sure, there may have been some obscure shows so offensive that they were canceled after a season, but there has never been a show that has managed to involve a major controversy as consistently as South Park. They've managed to stay controversial. Born again!
Maximum pulse!
They don't plan on slowing down.
That's some fancy armor. Too bad it's
I really much appreciate it. Stop trying to
There's
take my
still
videos
so
down.
much to
I work
do.
really hard on them, and I love your show, and so pretty please be kinder to me.
Still got an edge.
What were we talking about?
Because
of everything
By
I just
the
explained, I thought it would be fun to go back to every major South Park controversy online and explain it to the best of my abilities. And a quick side note, I know this isn't a super original idea. I mean, watch mode they just copy and pasted the original top 10 with no commentary.
Better already.
Okay, well, now I don't feel as bad about doing some revisions. So, the intro out of the way, let's get into it. Every South Park controversy today is a spawn. So, knowing the content of this video, there's a pretty good chance that it will get demonetized. So, to try to combat that, I'm going to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends just celebrated their 3rd anniversary as one of the top this game started strong from the very beginning and never slowed down. The thing that really blows my mind is that they didn't allow themselves to take a step back and rest, and they kept adding new permanent game modes every couple of months. So let's go check out some of the amazing things that happened on the game in those 2 years. One amazing addition was the Doom Tower. This game mode introduced a whole world of new and terrifying bosses and slay, sprawling over 120 levels. The Doom Tower brought exciting challenges. And of course the bosses and heroes. As a high-level collection RPG, Raid started with hundreds of new characters and bosses, but that did not stop them from adding more and more new champions. The game designers must have had a field day creating these amazing characters. Just check out some of the sketches, they're so cool. And if new characters wasn't enough, last year Raid added a whole new faction. The Shadowkin are a tribe of warriors from the Far East, recently liberated from the reign of evil, but that doesn't mean they're good guys either. For me, they're one of the coolest looking factions in the game. And of course I can't talk about it without addressing the newest and biggest addition to Raid. I'm talking about the Hydra Clan boss. It's without a doubt the biggest, baddest, and scariest boss to ever set foot in Teleria, although I'm not sure the Hydra's in that feat. This monster has multiple hands, each with a different ability, and requires a different strategy to destroy. But here's where it gets really challenging. Even if you manage to chop one of the heads, another one grows to replace it. It can be quite discouraging, but on the other hand, this boss gave me some of the best artifacts in the game. Honestly, this game is great whether you're a casual or hardcore player, and this month they're running an event where you get to play as Deliana, a brand new champion from the High Elves faction, just by logging in. All you have to do is log in 7 days between now and July 20th, and you'll get your hands on her for free. She's one of the strongest in the entire game, so I would definitely recommend doing this. Right now is the best time to get started in Raid because if you click the link in the description or scan this QR code, you'll get a free starter pack worth almost $40. You'll get 3 free champions plus 10 magic XP brews, 10 force XP brews, and 10 spirit brews. The champions are Misery Cord, Tiger Soul, and Romero.
I am simply a
huge
man
deal
who
because
wishes
you have
to
to
use his
one
power
champion,
for
so do
good.
not miss your chance. Also, if you enter this promo code, you will get 50 XP brews instantly to your legendary hero Deliana to get max level, as well as a ton of silver. So what are you waiting for? Download this game right now from my link in the description and get started. And thank
What a
you to Raid
strange
Shadow Legends
alliance.
for sponsoring this
We
video.
should be at odds, you and I.
Why do you say that, man of gold?
I seek to save souls.
To this day, South Park
You
will
seek
still
to
find
collect
itself
them.
in the occasional controversy. However, the public response to the show today is practically non-existent when compared with how it was received when it was
The battle
first aired.
starts in 5,
In 1997, the
4,
social landscape of
3,
the US was very
2,
different to how it is today.
1.
Vulgarity on
Ready
television
to
was
capture the
practically
available
non-existent
area
at the
and
time, so
extract some
put it in
goodies?
perspective, when The
Let's
Simpsons
go!
aired in 1989, it was considered by many to be crude and offensive. Now you could only imagine how those same people reacted when South Park aired and made The Simpsons look about as crude as Full House.
You got it, dude.
Quantum Match. To go from clean, sanitized, inoffensive sitcoms dominating popular television to a cartoon made for adults that was quite possibly the most media ever made. I mean, you're going 0 to 100 in record time. Unsurprisingly, a lot of people do not like the content of the show. The existence of this vulgarity was bad enough to cause people really seal the deal with the fact that the main character is doing these things to young children. It also didn't help that adult cartoons were very uncommon at the time, so a non-adult parent may see this show and watch the show and think they're watching a show while they're really watching an adult show on television. Reportedly, considering the pilot episode to test audiences, 3 people burst into tears over the show's content. The backlash was immense, including everything from campaigns to the show taken off the air to schools banning South Park clothing entirely. It's pretty funny looking back, since this early South Park is incredibly tame in comparison to what the show would become, and of course, that only brought with it more controversy. Despite its controversial existence, the show didn't experience much controversy related to specific themes outside of the story of the first 4 seasons. That is, South Park
I am ready to put on a show!
1999. Creating a movie meant that Trey were not limited to the rules they had to follow creating a television show, as they were always dancing with the lines of what was loudly shown on television and what
Disappear!
they sprinted straight for the line of what was going to be shown in movies instead of cameras. In the production of the issues with the MPAA and Paramount, who attempted to censor or block content so many times that this video would be an hour longer if I talked about all of them. So here are just a few of my favorites. The original name for the movie was South Park All Hell Breaks Loose, but the MPAA would not approve this name because it had the word hell in it. So Trey came up with bigger, longer, and uncut. Only later did the MPAA realize what the name actually meant, and Trey were made aware that at the time, the MPAA was 400 or more swear words rated NC-17. They couldn't have their movie rated NC-17. So you guess how many swear words they included. Yeah. Now the public's reaction. Basically what you would expect. Born again! Longer and more offensive episode of South Park. People called it to be banned. It was banned in a bunch of countries. People thought it marked the end of Western civilization. You know it, yada yada. Ironically, the backlash mirrored the predictions made in the movie itself, minus the whole war starting and everything. But the creation of this movie is what made Matt and Trey want to push the boundaries even further, and it marked the beginning of a major change in the tone of the show.
I am ready to put on a show!
Season 4 is where we first begin to see the signs that the show may be more than just crass humor, and recognize the potential for Episode 5, Call the Ruined Family, was banned from airing on the British satellite channel as it contained many references to the actions of the Family, which is somehow a real-life group and whose actions should not be there. Later in the season, we get one of our first glimpses at how well the show can handle contentious issues with Chef Joe's Landers, which discusses the implications of considering these as times of racism. The message of the episode has aged like fine wine, because there was a small amount of backlash, mostly due to seeing it. Then in episodes 9 and 10, this is the first time the show really committed entire episodes to parodying religion. Specifically, they parodied the fear-mongering and money-focused ideals that some Christian churches are known for. Unsurprisingly, this episode garnered a bit of controversy as most of Christianity is a dominantly Christian nation in the early 2000s generally would. However, this was the last of the sort of controversy for season 4, and made it through with only a few small incidents, so surely they wouldn't do something in the premiere of season 5 that would be such a big deal it would literally change television forever. Right? We already discussed the last fight in the season, and as the show continued past its third season, the controversy slowed down and people accepted that the show wasn't going anywhere. That is until this episode, when they decided to say the swear words that begin with S many, many times uncensored. The episode made fun of the public's reaction to an episode of Chicago Hope, in which the word was said uncensored for the first time on TV. The episode includes the word being said 162 times, conveniently displayed by a counter in the bottom right corner. Initially, the creators only wanted to say it a few times, but Comedy Central refused, so they came up with the idea to say the word as many times as possible so that it lost all its meaning. It was meant to show that it's just a word and it has no real power. They mostly succeeded in this since the episode itself didn't receive all that much backlash. I feel better already. Supposedly, Comedy Central received nearly 5,000 emails from organizations. But besides that, there were large-scale protests and release of this episode was surprisingly important to television as a whole, since it basically paves the way for the segregation to exist on television. And whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, it undoubtedly changed television. Born again!
Another epic victory!
A clever satire of education in the age at which it's taught that is portrayed through extremely graphic depictions of some pretty disturbing things. The real controversy here is the broadcasting. In Australia, the episode aired later than its usual time slot, and once again, the British channel Sky One outright refused to air the episode. In America, the Parents Television Council went as far as to cite the episode as an example of how the show is quote-unquote dangerous to democracy. If anyone can explain how exactly a cartoon about sex ed is dangerous to democracy, go ahead and explain in the comments down below. Since then, all repeats and DVD versions included edited scenes, particularly one with Mr. Garrison teaching the kindergartners how to perform the old rubber mouth technique. Comedy Central didn't even want to air the scene in the first place, but it did for the initial screening and never again. When this episode first aired,
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
I will bring peace to this universe, no matter the cost.
The higher the pressure, the more dazzling the diamond.
Escape pod ready. Opening escape capsule.
The only thing stronger than my skin is my mind. The higher the pressure.
30 seconds before you attack. Get ready.
Do you have a problem with me I should know about?
Only the years of unnecessary pain and strife you caused my people.
Whatever your Wanda Maximoff did, that blood is not on my hands.
And yet there you are, bathed in red.
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Shame my students aren't here to witness this lesson. Ah, look who's here. I was fine, but thank you.
A nice deep freeze. Over here. Help get that vehicle to its destination.
I suppose that helps.
Almost there. Don't turn back now.
We've been discovered. Problem solved.
Let's deliver those essence below the surface. You need me. The vehicle reached a checkpoint. Keep up the momentum.
That's some real firepower, Frank.
The Punisher's turret has been disabled. You're welcome. You deserved that, dear.
You're welcome.
Mental domination. A nice deep freeze. Disappear!
I was fine. Thank you.
I'll back you up.
It's the grand finale. Don't let anything stand in your way.
Follow the enemy.
Your mind is mine.
Behold, Dark Child! I am ready to put on a show.
The mind is on you.
Okay, admit it. You need me.